That's good. Where is all that? Oh. I'm going to pause that one. Because I'm not going to your keys. Yeah, that's why I came to why are you going now? Better make sure that's locked, dude.
As like jet lagged and hungry and cranky as possible, and then we decide we have to I'm kidding. But usually when we're really tired and probably too tired to sail, then we do set the boat up and we try to sort food out, and we kind of divide and conquer that day of, all right, in order to sail tomorrow, we've got to have food, our boat has to be in good shape, we've got to know where the gym is, we've got to, you kind of figure how to like live in that place and function. And we do some like local research about how we're going to get to the venue. And we plan on sailing. Is that what you mean? Like when we first get to a spot?
I meant like sailing related, but that was good too.
Okay. Well, sailing related, we spend time looking at the race courses. So if the SIs or the NMR has diagrams of where the courses will be, then we'll look at that and talk about like where if like shorelines and geography are going to play a big part in it, and if current is going to be a big deal. So we start looking at those geographical features. We start getting forecasts. I don't know how far out, Steph, like a few days before the regatta, we get our professional forecasts.
Yeah.
And then we're really in gather information mode during the training time. We talk a lot about like, we try to train on the race course areas where we'll be sailing and learn kind of how the breeze is acting in that spot. So, we're at least familiar with it. What else, Steph? What do you think we do sailing wise?
Yeah, I think the first thing we do is a shakedown sail. Usually, yeah, if we've had a long day of travel the day before, we'll just like get out, like go for like a nice, like we call it shakedown sail, where we make sure like everything's working on the boat, and that it's just kind of like to beat the jet lag and just like get out and be on the water. And then the next day we like really seriously get into the training and kind of like slowly like ramp it up with the amount of time we spend on the water.
Yeah, during that shakedown sail, sometimes we have like, sometimes that you're not going to sail really well because you're exhausted and tired and jet lagged, whatever it might be. Maybe we haven't been in the boat for 6 weeks, like it's going to be when we get back to it this time. And we'll say like, basically no feedback. Let's just feel the boat. Let's just fall a couple times. Let's just get back into it, and it's sort of like a judgment-free zone to just like reconnect and like, yeah, take off the cobwebs. You probably already said that.
Kurt asked us who is in charge of rigging the boat and who is in charge of food. Maggie's in charge of rigging the boat. She's very good at that. And I'm in charge of the food. I don't know if I'm very good at it, but I take it on.
Cool.
I have a random question. Shoot. What is your favorite snack to eat like while you're racing?
We keep it pretty simple, to be honest. We eat a lot of like shot blocks, peanut butter and jelly. I eat these bars that are called like That's It, and it's just like it's dried fruit, which is like just mango and apples or blueberries and apples, and those are pretty easy to get down. Yeah, like a peanut butter and jelly, or every once in a while we'll bring pasta out if we know we're gonna have a long day.
Yeah,
like a protein shake on the way in. We're not very exciting on the food program on the water. Keep it pretty simple.
Peanut butter jelly and green grapes, like a 5-year-old. Well, hey guys, do you think we should get going on the presentation? These are really great questions. I'd say at any time if you guys want us to elaborate on anything, please feel free to turn your microphone on and say, hey, this is Maggie and Steph, I want to know why you did your hair that way. We really don't mind if you guys interrupt us, or if something doesn't make sense, please stop us. But yeah, Kurt, Zach, you guys cool with that if we roll into?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. And people can throw stuff in the chat too if they don't want to ask on camera.
Cool. Totally. All right. Sorry, guys. Bear with me. Sharing screen. All right. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Cool. Is it presenter mode?
Yeah, it looks good.
All right. I've lost my mouse somehow, which is weird. So, Steph and Kurt, I'll ask if you guys can monitor the chat because I can't quite do that.
Yep, I'm on it.
Wait, look at that. All right, cool. So, hey guys, this is us. We are Roble Sailing, and we're on the US sailing team. We sail 200 days a year, so this is like totally our full-time job. We recently won the US Olympic trials, but that's actually not what we're here to talk about today. We want to talk about how you go from being like a Midwestern high school sailor to competing to make it on the Olympic sailing team, because our paths were pretty different, and yeah, we're psyched to talk to you guys about that. So how's that? So this is a picture of I'm a baby in this photo. That's like 2000. That's a really long time ago. It doesn't matter when. And I'm still with my high school sailing team, and yeah. And our,
Steph Roble. We didn't know Steph was going to join today, but it's,
Zach, you're not on mute.
so funny. But what I wanted to talk about here on this slide is that I had a high school sailing team that I even was able to practice with when I was in like 7th and 8th grade. We were able to join them on the weekends or something, you know, as a JV squad. And Steph didn't. And so we had really different junior sailing experiences. Like I learned to sail with my family, and it was like fun, and we sailed butterflies, and then I sailed on my grandpa's big boat, and we were just having a good time. Like I was loving the deliveries. Then when I started racing, I like got into the Chicago Yacht Club junior sailing program, and I liked that a lot and had fun racing, and did the high school sailing team, and that helped set me up for a competitive college sailing path and so on. But I just wanted to make a point that Steph's junior sailing looked really different.
Yeah, I grew up on a small lake in Wisconsin, so sailing wasn't like a huge part of our community like it is down in Chicago. So I was just, you know, my yacht club was the community that I grew up in, but we didn't have like high school sailing teams. So I just, with a couple of like close friends from my yacht club, we did a bunch of regattas like within the inland lakes. And then eventually we said, hey, we want to go to the next level and get better at this. And so we started going to like regional regattas, and then we started going to national regattas, and then we started qualifying for international regattas. So yeah, I didn't have like the high school sailing path, but we kind of like formed our own team and made a transition that way.
I wanted to show you guys this really impressive resume that I put together. I'm so old that these were like PDF forms or something online. But I just, you know, this is really the making of an Olympic sailor, guys. I finished second to last, and then 13th out of 20. That was pretty okay. Oops. Then 13 out of 20, 7 out of 20, and I couldn't find my first youth championships. I literally got last place. And so I'm joking, but I'm just want to show you guys that like results are not an indicator of, you know, what you can accomplish in the next sphere or the next sphere, you know. And it's if Steph was to show you some of her results, I mean, I think she'd have like first place at Lighter Cup, and she'd have some much more impressive results than I have to show for myself, but you know, from our early high school sailing days. But I just wanted to illustrate that like you don't have to be at the top of the pack. And sure, in some of those results that I showed you, like Charlie Buckingham's up there, Taylor Canfield's up there, you know, Joe Morris, whatever. Okay, and I can't really even read because those are so small right now. But yeah, and a lot of those people, like, they did really well early in the career, but like, you know, you compete with them later, and it's just not a linear thing that the people that are ahead in producing results early on are the ones that dominate forever. That's just totally not the case. Oftentimes in the early parts of your sailing career, results can just be a reflection of like access to resources, you know, like the high school sailing teams that have access to sailing more, you know, like 100% of the year, as opposed to you guys are iced in for several months, you know, like that's just going to be, you're going to be in a different spot in your progression when the ice breaks and you guys can finally get on the lake and the other team's been sailing for weeks, you know. It also can just be a difference in how you choose to structure your program. So for example, like Steph chose a pretty competitive program as a young sailor, whereas I was like really having fun capsizing my boat and having tea parties underneath it with my cousins, you know. Like at that point we just like made different choices and we still like loved it and fell in love with it, and like that's what carried us on to sailing still competitively 20 years later, where we are now. And probably if I was like too competitive too early on, I probably would have burned out, you know. But I just wanted to make a point that like results, it's not an indicator or it's not a limiting factor for the next sphere of sailing that you move into. They're important. You should be proud of them. You know, you should be really proud of what you've accomplished in terms of results. But it doesn't make you entitled to any success later. And it doesn't determine the success you'll have from one sphere to the next to the next. Like there's no rule that says you have to be a college All-American to make it to the Olympic sailing team. No, that's not true at all, you know. And you don't have to have Olympic sailing titles to make it to the America's Cup. And you know, it's not like an application process, you know. It's really is just what you make of it. Okay, so I've rambled on that. But maybe Steph, do you want to talk a little bit about how we've sort of stopped living and dying by our results?
Yeah, we've really turned into a team that focuses on the process, and just trusting that if we have a good process in place, that our results will come from that. And I think that just it helps a lot mentally, because then you're focused on executing your steps along the way and trusting what you know, and not like giving mental energy to like, oh, I just rounded the winter mark in second to last, like, oh my gosh, how am I gonna gain boats here? It's like, okay, we just acknowledge where we are and we figure out how we can gain one more boat and one more boat and one more boat, and just trust that like the training that we've put into all of this will produce the results in the long term. So yeah, believing in the process and trusting it is really an important part of your whole sailing journey.
And yeah, and I'll also say like I learned from Sally Barco pretty early on that like it's just exhausting to, in the course of a day, get really, really excited about a race and then really down and bummed about it. And I used to think like if I'm doing badly, I should show everyone I care by getting bummed about it. But that wasn't really, that couldn't be farther from the truth. You know, like it's really about like you and how you turn your mental state around and how you get past your mistakes, move on to the next race. It has nothing to do with like showing people that your teammates that you care and you're disappointed. You know, actually the best thing you could do is be steady Eddie and, you know, like roll with the punches, be forward thinking, keep trying to learn and keep like helping promote that learning thing, you know, that learning mentality that Steph was talking about. Then we'll talk about it a little bit more. And I also want to share one little anecdote about this. That Steph and I just competed in, so we just finished, I say just, but it was a while ago now. But in February, we sailed the U.S. Olympic trials, which was 2 events. It was one world championship in December in New Zealand and one world championship in February in Australia. And the first world championship we showed up to and we felt like, okay, we've done everything we can. We are prepared. We've done all the work. We feel so confident that we've spent every hour we could on the water, that we've turned over every stone. You know, we felt really like confident and excited to race. Then we started racing and we felt like, I felt at least like I had to produce something, like I had to deliver something, you know. Now we've done all the work. It's time to produce it. And that was really, I'd say that really put us in a tough spot, because then when you start feeling the pressure and the stress, which is only human, it's the Olympic trials, there's a lot on the line. It's hard to turn it around. It's hard to move on to the next race. It's hard to deal with making a mistake, which we all do all the time. You know, sailboat racing is just about making fewer mistakes. And so if you make a mistake and you feel like, no, you're supposed to be executing, we can't make any mistakes, then you're really going to be in a tough spot. And so that was probably the only way I felt for the first couple of days of that. But we really turned our attitude around and turned the way we structured our days around for the second event. And we said, hey, we just need to remember that we're trying to keep learning. We're trying to keep learning within each race, within the regatta, within the whole journey of this Olympic campaign. And you know, the point of it is to keep learning, and the journey is the whole part, you know, is 100% of it. And so the next Worlds, we showed up and we really said, hey, we have to have a debrief every day. Between races, we need to talk about what we learned and what we're going to do different next race. During the races, we need to talk about what we're observing and how we're going to change. And so anyhow, I just wanted to share that was like a pretty conscious mentality shift that we made within the team. And it is really what Steph was talking about, trusting the process and going back to that and not thinking about the results that allowed us to perform a lot better. So, okay. What you guys can do now, though, you can develop a solid work ethic, and you should. If you know that what you're, I mean, I think everyone's a bunch of different ages, and we're kind of at different point. You guys are at different points in your sailing careers, but what would help you right now, you know, is not necessarily to like win every single race and rack up titles and go to every single regatta that you possibly can, you know, and that's not really that's not going to get the best bang for your buck. But if you learn to commit to a growth mindset, which I'll let Steph talk about, if you learn to be, you know, conduct yourself like a professional athlete, you learn to keep learning through all these, you know, through sailing books, and we'll talk a little bit more about later about some resources. But that's the best thing you could do to set yourself up for later. So, Steph, do you want to talk about our growth mindset? Our growth mindset?
Yeah. I'd say the growth mindset just comes from believing and you can learn from every opportunity. The opposite of that would be a fixed mindset where you kind of believe like you have the skills or you don't, whereas a growth mindset, you believe you can develop as a person and develop new skills and develop as a sailor. And I would say that's kind of the short answer for a growth mindset versus fixed mindset. And just a growth mindset allows you to believe in the process and believe that, you know, kind of everything's happening for a reason, and you're going to, you know, each experience is going to make you a better athlete, better sailor, better human down the road.
And I would add to that, when Steph and I, like a really good opportunity that you guys will have a chance hopefully in the next few years or summer or whatever it might be, but when Steph and I get to train with younger sailors who are learning to sail on the boat, you know, we are really excited to have a chance to share our knowledge and what we've learned. But it really comes across to us whether the sailors that have come to train with us want to learn and grow and think they have a lot to learn, versus like they're trying to prove something to us and they think they know it all and they don't think they've got a lot to learn. We want to learn from them. And if someone shows up at the table and thinks that they've got it all figured out, it's not a collaborative process. You know, we look at these training partners and say, okay, we want to learn from them. And especially if they're young, and we want to teach them how to sail this boat as well as possible, as fast as possible, so they start pushing us in all the conditions, right? It's in our best interest to get them fast. But if they show up acting like they've kind of got it all figured out, we're like not so keen on training. You know, like it makes I'll focus on the positive here. It makes a really huge impact on how much time we want to spend working with someone when they show up and have a good, open-minded, process-oriented, learning-driven attitude. You know, that's just like they're just open and they just want to learn and absorb and teach and share their ideas and collaborate and so on and so forth. So, okay, and I wanted to point out the difference between discipline and motivation. You know, discipline is like literally what you do to stay on track with your goals. Motivation is like why you do it. So yeah, we're all motivated to like win $1 million, find $1 million, you know, like we could all want that, you know, we all want to win the America's Cup, whatever it might be, but like discipline is like actually following through. And like, I would say that discipline's like not really the fun part of it. You know, with fitness, like I want to be the strongest person in the world. Yeah. Like I want to be that person, you know, but like there are a lot of days that I'm really tired, and that's where discipline comes in. And sometimes I have to reach out to my team and say, oh my gosh, guys, I'm feeling so lazy, so crummy. I just want to go to sleep and watch Netflix, whatever. And they help you like get your butt in gear, you know? So you got to learn like what helps you stay disciplined. Steph, I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit too.
Yeah, I think it's a really, really good point. Just kind of like bringing it down to like a level, like, you know, when it comes to working out, like, okay, sometimes there's mornings when I wake up at 6:30 in the morning to go bike riding, and I'm like, man, I really don't want to get out of bed right now, but I get out of bed anyways because I'm not like super motivated, but I'm disciplined to do it because I know that that's long-term what's best for me, and for my team as well. And I think, yeah, like understanding the difference between that and like the people who are most disciplined in life are the ones that, yeah, accomplish their goals, like Maggie said. But I think at the end of the day, it's really, really important that you have good motivation. Like when I'm when I am very tired and I think about like, oh, do I want to go through with this workout? I think about like my competitors outworking me, or I think about like Maggie and I standing on, have that motivation, and that is what will drive you. But also discipline is you following through with what you've, you know, promised to your teammate or promised to yourself.
Yeah,
Holding yourself accountable.
totally. Or figuring out what you need to do, how to set it up so that it's easier for you to do it. You know, like I didn't want to go bike riding outside because it was really cold. So I got myself like a indoor bike trainer. I set it up in front of the TV, which is like a new quarantine habit of mine, to like watch TV while I bike. That's like totally weird to me, but I'm just trying to make it as easy as possible, you know? And at the end of the day, like I can't get on that couch and like feel good about myself. I'm not sure if you guys can see this, but my bike's right next to the couch. It is like staring me in the face if I didn't do my workout. You know, I literally have to like move my weights out of the way to like get on the couch and have couch time. And, you know, there are these little like psychological tricks you can just make for yourself. Like for me, that's like, it's in my face. I'm looking forward to that part of my day. I'm gonna feel really good when it's done. I'm looking at that bike. I'll be like, I worked hard on you today. I've heard people talk about like pre-packing your gym bag the night before. Like any of these little tricks that like make it easier for you to like be disciplined, you know, or like what gym, when gyms open up again, when we are all out together again, like, you know, set it up so that it's easy. Like Steph found this like CrossFit gym in Miami. That CrossFit gyms are Steph's style, not my style. I like big gyms that are like super clean and lots of machines, so we're not all on the same one. Steph likes the ones that they're like throwing weights around on the ground and like moving tires and stuff, you know, those crazy ones. But you know, like so sometimes when we're abroad, sometimes we don't work out at the same gym. Like I want to find what Steph likes to bike to and from sailing, so she might want to find one on her bike route. I want air conditioning in the gym, you know, like so we just kind of figure out like what makes you say like I want to go to the gym, you know, or like what makes it easy for you to do that, like putting your shoes in your bag or whatever it might be. I love reading when they say that like buying yourself a new pair of workout clothes makes you like want to go work out. I was like, yes, ordering a Lululemon top, you know, whatever it might be. Like if you need to give yourself a little incentive, that's fine. But yeah, just figure out how to be disciplined is what I was gonna say. Okay, I want to make this point too, that of the days we spend on the water, this has been like a heavy competition year. Like we've done a lot of regattas, and it still only accounts for like 15% of our time on the water. 85% of the time is training, and that's like just the three of us. And so if you want to pursue professional or Olympic sailing, you better love training because that's all we do. And you know, it's funny, like we'll finish a day of sailing, and I love when like Steph, when we were down in Miami sailing in March, she very genuinely was on the way and she's like, gosh, I just love training. I'm so happy we're back to training. And I was like, who are you? Like, no one says that, you know. Usually everyone's like, I can't wait to get back to racing. But Steph loves that process. And yeah, I don't want to put words in your mouth, Steph, but you did say that. So
yeah, no, I do love training. And I enjoy the opportunity to work as a team and get better as a team. And training training gives you an environment where you can like really experiment with things and be really open, and you don't really have like, yeah, you can just try new things. And I think it's just a really fun way to learn, and having the right environment for it is really important. Like Maggie said, you know, having the right training partners around really contribute to your training environment, and having, you know, a teammate who's really supportive through thick and thin, and having a coach who's really supportive through thick and thin. You know, that whole team component is really, really important. And I think that just, you know, surrounding yourself with the right people is an important part of this process.
and you also have to like really like, so Steph's saying she likes this process. Like the process is not always fun, you know. Learning a new concept is, it's frustrating. You know, usually you're focusing on a concept because you're not good at it, right? Usually we're focusing on something that we've screwed up a lot. And so there's this point that you have to like wrestle with it for a while. And like, that's not always really fun. I mean, I remember trying to change the way I switched my hands on, I switched the main sheet in my hands on tacks. And when we decided I was going to change this, like it was really, really hard. We'd sail upwind for so long that then I was too tired to sail back downwind, and my coach had to pop in and sail in for me. And I felt like I was just banging my head against the wall. But then like months later, when it clicks, it's so rewarding. You're like, Oh my gosh, that was so worth it. And I just want to point out that like in the moment, sometimes when we're learning something, like it's not easy, we're like learning something new because it's hard. And if you only focus on your strengths, you're not going to grow. So focusing on your weakness is tough. Like it's tough to, especially because I'm sure a lot of us are like competitive perfectionist individuals. And when you can't do something as well as you want, it's frustrating. Right. And so that part of it's real too. I just want to point out that like, yeah, sometimes it's hard. Like Steph jokes that in debriefs, a lot of times when I'm really angry or, wrestling with something, she says, I do this. And I'm like, okay, and like, she can just feel the like intensity that I'm feeling. And like that part of it's exhausting. So yeah, I just kind of want to make this point about it. You better like that part of it. You better be up for that challenge. And like Steph said, we make it fun. Okay, I also wanted to just do like, this is my best at like a perception versus reality meme. I know I'm not like super cool at this, but what we show you guys on social media, like we do really want you to think that we're like having fun, blasting around. And we do for most of the time. Like the majority of the time we are having a ball and we are so lucky to do what we're doing. But the reality is that it's like also really hard work and we fail a lot. And you have to fail in order to learn to push the envelope. And so we spend a lot of time swimming in freezing cold water. We spend a lot of time working out. So like even in a normal training day or training week, we're probably on the water just a little bit more than we're in the gym, but like pretty similar. We spend a ton of time doing boat work, which is like exhausting and hard.
Mentally exhausting.
Yeah, it's like manual labor that's like hard to figure out, and it's tough. And it's hard work. So I just wanted to kind of make a point that like what you see on Facebook is always like, we always want, a lot of people and athletes included, we want to show the good stuff. We don't show the like, tough sails in after a bad day of racing or like, the exhaustion that's involved as well, but it's part of it. Steph, you want to talk about our team dynamic?
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know if all of you know this, but so on our boat, I think it's pretty unique that I drive and Maggie trims the main sheet upwind, whereas like on a 470, the driver would also trim the main sheet. So for Maggie and I specifically, like communication is a really important part of our day and making the boat go fast around the race course. But then also, communication between Maggie and I, just in general, like when we're off the water and sorry, I just lost my train of thought there. When we're off the water and when we're away from each other, communication is really important so we can all be on the same page. And then, Julia is our coach and it's kind of the three of us as our core little team. And Julia kind of spearheads like, our path and she communicates with us really well about that and what our game plan is for the day. And so I think like overall as a team, communication is very important and it's like, it has multiple different levels. You have your communication of like, your plan as a team, like your overall, like our plan for the next 15 months to the Olympics, but then we have our communication inside the boat of how we talk about speed. And so there's all these different levels of it. And I think just like, having a team that you can really like openly communicate with, but also communicate efficiently with is really important. And I really value that with our team. And by no means has it been like an easy process to get to the point we're at with our communication. And it's definitely a skill that you learn over time. And sailing is actually a really unique sport for it because like when you're swimming on your own, you don't need any communication. Whereas like sailing is so important for communication to make the boat go, make our launch times happen, make our debrief times happen, all that stuff. It all adds up, and having good, effective communication really can make or break the team.
Yeah, and I would just elaborate also that so communication oftentimes too, when we find like, if we're having a conflict, it's not like what we're saying, but it's often just how you're saying it and when you're saying it and where you're saying it, so we take a lot of effort to make sure that when we are having either tough conversations or what could turn into a contentious conversation, that we're doing it at the right time. And we've learned this by having, we've had too many like hungry, cold wets, we're in our cold wetsuit after sailing, we're hungry, we're tired, we're exhausted from racing, and then we try to dive into a big, deep topic, and like that is just not the time for it. So we started making rules like, okay, if anyone's hungry, they need to like say that first thing first, and then we know, okay, if someone's hungry, we're not really gonna like poke and prod that person and ask a million questions, right? If someone's uncomfortable or has to get somewhere, like, those things all need to be said beforehand. So, like, is this going to be a collaborative conversation or not? But, all of this, what this all comes down to is, for me, is that like the three of us have really made a choice that like we are going to enjoy this process. And I know that sounds silly, but I do very much believe that like you can, happiness can be a choice, and that you can like in certain situations choose to be grateful and choose to appreciate your opportunities and like choose to be a good teammate. Like I tell some of the dumbest jokes, Steph will tell you, but she like chooses to chuckle, if she's quiet or down, she'll like make a choice to like come around to me because she knows I'm trying to like nudge her and rally her and make her feel better, whatever that might be. That's a pretty conscious choice. I think we make choices also in the morning about like, so Steph likes to bike ride down to the venue and jam to her music, and that's how she like gets pumped for the day and gets into like a good mental space to compete. I sometimes have to like not watch the news because I'll get angry and come into breakfast and start yelling about whatever person it might be on the news that's bugging me. So like you have to learn like what are your triggers and like what sets you up to be like in a good mind space, to be a good teammate that day, and to be open and to learn and to facilitate like a healthy learning environment that doesn't make the other person feel judgmental, or safe, or it makes them feel safe, or whatever it might be. You just have to like make those choices to be into it. And like Steph said, it's hard to like, this is a huge challenge. Like 2 or 3 people getting along. Steph and I are really good friends. We're so lucky, but like what makes us very competitive people also makes us difficult to get along with sometimes. We're like super type A, we're very opinionated, we're super driven, we have our idea about how we want to go forward, really determined. When someone like sets us off track, like we want to bulldoze them, like they're all of those things that make us very competitive can also make that like a difficult team dynamic, and you have to kind of embrace that and be like, okay, we got to talk about this then. And it's okay to be difficult. Like I've sailed with 5 different people on this boat, and so you learn like everyone's really different, and you have to learn how to get along with everyone in a different way, and what works for one team doesn't work for another. And so a couple little processes, because Lexi, you asked earlier how we separate our work and our play. One example would be with our phones. So we're trying to run a small business, and we're trying to raise a ton of money, and we're trying to be competitive, and we're also friends, and we want to talk about exciting things that are going on in each other's lives. But if we were talking all day about these like finance decisions and coaching decisions, and then like, social decisions, like you can't let those cloud each other up. You've got to separate them. And so one thing with our phone is like we iMessage about our social life and our playtime, and we use the WhatsApp application to talk about sailing and business stuff. And then we also come up with some rules about like how to respect each other's time. We're working on the same stuff all day, so it would be easy for us to just like have each other on speed dial, open phone, speakerphone all day, but we would drive each other nuts. So we text about when we're going to talk about certain things. We give each other deadlines. We respect those deadlines. We respect each other's time. If I know that Steph's working on something else or is, out for bike ride, whatever, like I just try to respect that. We don't want to be, communicating like we're on walkie-talkies 100% of the day, because we drive each other insane. So you email about things that aren't time sensitive. You WhatsApp about things that are time sensitive. You set up times to discuss certain things on phone calls. And so, Steph, did I miss anything there about?
No, I think that goes through our process really well. And, I think at the end of the day, when you sail with your best friend, it does get hard sometimes to separate like competition and being a friend. But I think there's just an easy way to say, like, if there is like a friend thing that you want to bring up on the water, or just say like, hey, I just, as your friend, I want to say something about this, or like, I don't mean to push your buttons, but this, and you kind of like, the good news about being really good friends with someone you sail with is you understand a lot about them. So you can, like I know things that make, Maggie irritated or annoy her. So I would try to avoid those things, or maybe not. No, I would try to avoid those things when bringing up a topic. And I think it's an advantage for sure to be friends with someone you're sailing with.
And Steph, I kind of forgot about this, but like when we're on the water, we almost never talk about anything but sailing. That is sailing time, and we really respect that. Like boat park it's kind of okay when we're at the boat park to talk about some stuff, but really at the right time. If I'm rigging or if Steph's like measuring our mast or we're working on something really sailing related, it's not the time that I'm going to be like, so what are you doing Friday night? How's your boyfriend? What's going on? You know what I mean? Like that's just not, it's work time. And
Yeah.
It's also not time for me to be like, oh my gosh, this current event, it's you just have to really respect like what is work time, what's playtime. And I think on the water, like the hours that you can spend on the water are really limited. You can't waste time on the water thinking about non-sailing stuff. I mean, that doesn't mean don't say anything about, have fun, but that is kind of how we roll. Is that fair, Steph?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So this was just another example of things that are like really in your control right now. If you want to be a professional sailor, like learn to set goals, learn to hold yourself accountable, like Steph was talking about earlier. Fitness is one of the things that like is in your control right now. And I'll say like I had a lot of sailing opportunities after college because I was a big and strong girl, like I was like, I was the right size to sail skiffs or keel boats, and I was really strong and I was fit. And so Steph asked me to be her trimmer on the women's international match racing circuit, keel boat stuff. I got a chance to sail skiffs because I was big and fit, and like that's in your control 100%. And I do remember when I was younger thinking like, oh, maybe I'll never be fit enough to sail skiffs. Like I remember being intimidated by it. But that I couldn't have been more wrong, and your fitness, you can start lifting weights and you'll see a massive muscle, you won't see a big muscle change for 6 weeks, but you'd be surprised that like after 6 weeks of like really sticking to a strength training program, like the changes you can see. And just learning how to be an athlete early on is going to set you up to be a better one later. But here's a goal setting thing. Steph, you want to talk about this spreadsheet?
Yeah, just kind of going back to what Maggie said real quick about learning to be an athlete early on. I think there are a lot of things that I learned like pretty early on in our campaign that were super helpful for later on, whether it's managing your sleep or managing your recovery and managing your workload in the gym. Those kinds of things that all go into becoming an athlete, and how you eat and how much you eat. And we're still learning a ton about that. And hydration, all those things all play into your ultimate performance on the water. And so like really having them all dialed in and understanding what works and what doesn't work for you is really important. So yeah. And then setting goals. I don't know, for me, life is a lot more fun with goals. And this photo is an example of, we were really struggling with our starts. And so we started grading our coach started grading our starts for us, which was pretty interesting to reflect on. And then, obviously our goal is to get better at starts. Well, how do you just say like, I'm better at starts now? Well, let's put a number behind it. So she started scoring our starts, and you can see here, we have the score. So 5 was the best. And then our position, on the starting line. So like a 1-1, would be starting like literally right at the boat, whereas like a 1-3 would be like on the boat third of the line, but like closer to the middle. So the line is like split into thirds, and then each third is split into an additional third. And then we track our position at the top mark. So you can see sometimes there's like a relation between our score on our start and our top mark score. Oceania race 1, we scored a 5 on the start, and we're at the top mark in first. The 4th race, we scored a 0, and we were 10th at the first mark. So it was just kind of a cool way to bring, put some numbers behind everything.
Yeah, Steph, do you think it's fair to say you're pretty number oriented as a person?
Yeah.
So like this kind of system works really well, and you guys could do this too. Like you can rate yourself. Our rating system is pretty objective as well. It's like, okay, could we tack if we wanted to tack? Could we sail straight if we want to sail? Yes. Okay, good. Then that's, were we on time? Were we like, just make it easy, make your goals measurable. and track them, and tracking is really, here's another example of, I wanted to make a point that also, like, if you can learn to accurately and honestly evaluate yourself, it's really helpful skill. Recently, our coach gave us this, she took a Google form, like a Google survey form, and asked us about millions of parts of the race. It was very painstaking. These are 4 of like, I don't know, 10 or 12 slides or something like that. But talking about confidence and how we think we perform at that. And my line is red and Steph's line is blue. We spent 2 hours last night talking about the skills that we disagreed, that I thought we were really good and Steph thinks we're bad at, or vice versa. And we talked about those. And I think we most often came to an agreement stuff, but so I'd say 90% of the time we're agreeing on how good or bad we are at something. Or I shouldn't say it like that. I should say how much room to improve there is on these skill sets. But this was a really helpful tool, because you've got to reflect and assess and evaluate yourself. And I think right now, where you could compare yourself and how you're viewing your skill set to what your coach thinks, and that's a really, like, that would be a pretty good objective evaluation of how you evaluate your skills.
Real quick, I have someone who wants to say hi.
Oh, okay.
What's going on? Hey, Zachary.
Taylor's just swinging by to say hi.
Hey, you look good today.
You put a shirt on, yeah.
I look good every day. Come on.
Working out in your new driveway?
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. Garage workouts, we call
Yeah.
Taylor, are you keeping up with Steph on the bike yet?
them. Oh, come on. It goes back and forth, but I dragged her around a little bit today. No, it's good. It's good to push each other. That's what friends are for.
Sorry, Mags. Keep going.
That's all right. No, in my speaker view, I can't see, so I don't really know what's going on. Sorry, guys.
That's all right. Next slide.
Okay, next slide, please. Okay. We actually talked about a lot of this earlier, controlling the controllables, and we talked about fitness. I also wanted to make a couple other points. Equipment maintenance is something that's totally in your control, right? And the fact that, like, Steph and I are really on top of our boat maintenance. Our checklists are meticulous and painstaking and tedious, and I'll admit that, but I love them because they give me confidence going into a regatta because I know I've checked over every part. I've done all the preventative maintenance. I've swapped out everything that ages quickly, and we've never lost a race due to equipment failure, and so that's not always in your control. Say you get hit by a microburst or someone capsizes on you and you rip something, that's life. But at least we can go to bed knowing, we can be at the starting line knowing that our equipment is in as good shape as it possibly can be because I've cleaned everything. You know what I mean? I love doing that part of it, but that gives you a lot of confidence in your preparation. And that's something you can learn to do now. You can learn to do gel coat and fiberglass mini repairs. You can learn about how to maintain sails. You can learn all of these little things now, and it'll really help you later in a professional sailing life because you guys have the best case scenario right now in high school sailing where the boats are like taken care of for you, and that's really irregular. And it's a shock to some people when they try to do Olympic sailing and they all of a sudden have to take care of everything, and it's like takes up so much time and they get so stressed and they hate doing it. And so yeah, I just wanted to point that out. And in terms of educating yourself, there are a lot of good resources out there. Sailing Strategy is a great book. Learning the rules through like Dave Perry's quiz books is huge. And also I just want to make a point that like there's so much good sailing video online. If you're interested in a boat, just check out the YouTube on that boat. There's oftentimes people like post online or post onboard cameras and stuff like that. Okay, I know we're kind of nearing the end of our time, so I'll breeze through this, but I wanted to mention that like when you have opportunities to sail with people in the greater sailing community, if you put yourself out there as potential crew, like you can learn so much from sailing a bunch of different boats. Like Steph and I recommend right now, you don't need to specialize in it, but you can, and that's great. If you love that boat, go for it, but you don't need to. And actually the more boats you sail, you really learn a lot of different things. And Steph and I feel like we have a nice portfolio of big, slow, heavy boats and little fast boats. And we've learned a lot from all of them, whether it be tactics or strategy or whatever it might be, but they'll all help you in the end. So don't ever say no to an opportunity because you feel like you should be specializing in a boat right now. Sorry, coaches, if you disagree with that. But, when you are asked to be a crew on a team, I'm sorry I'm rushing through this, but just a few tips, because it's kind of an intimidating situation. If like someone last minute needs crew for the nude regatta and you want to jump on board, just a few tips, like don't expect anything, like you're there to like observe and learn and absorb as much as you can, and like, ask questions and ask for very clear directions about what they expect you to do in terms of, your task. As a pro sailor, like oftentimes if we get younger sailors on board, and I don't always know what they don't know. So I love when people ask questions. I would never fault someone for like asking me too many questions about how to perform their job. There's a time and place for questions. It's not always mid-race, but, make sure you're super clear on what people are expecting you to do, and don't feel bad about asking any questions. We'd rather you ask than us to get to the windward mark and you'd be like, where's the spin halyard? Whatever it might be. So a couple tips: always introduce yourself to the owner of the boat, he or she. Just say thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here and I want to learn as much as I can. That sets a really good tone. When you don't seem entitled in any way, you seem like you're grateful to be there for the opportunity. You want to learn as much as you can. That's the kind of person that Steph and I'd be like, we want to train with you, or, like you want to ask them back when someone has that attitude. Don't be apologetic, but be aware, like and this is kind of a girl thing. Like it's really easy for us to say, I'm sorry. You don't really usually have anything to apologize for. That's just a nervous thing, so just be aware of your surroundings and be aware of your communication and be aware of what you're doing. You don't need to say, sorry, I screwed that tack up. No one thinks you did it intentionally. So just remember that. It's a little tip. And then communicate that you want to learn, ask questions at the right time. Just tell them I really want to learn and I'm excited to be here. So it's hard to put yourself out there sometimes, but I just want to give that plug for you because I learned a lot from sailing like very random keel boats and like very random programs. And the better attitude you have and the more flexible you are, like the more often you'll get called back. And so, okay, there are some.
Before you go on, I had a question privately chatted to me just asking about how your size can impact your ability to jump into professional sailing. And my quick answer to that is like there's a job for everyone. When I started professional sailing, I still am 5'3", but I was 120 pounds. So I knew that I was never going to be a grinder on an America's Cup boat, but I know that I can be a tactician, or I can be a good bow person, or a good strategist, or main trimmer, that sort of thing. And then kind of narrowed it down to the boats that I could sail, which were, J70s and Melgus 20s and Etchels, and got really involved in the smaller keelboat fleets. But even now, New York Yacht Club has this IC-37 fleet that's really a cool keelboat to get involved in. And the Sonars at Chicago Yacht Club and J22s, those are all really great boats. And just figure out what you can kind of specialize in given your size.
Yeah, Steph, that's a really good point. And I think the fitter you are, the better you'll. Yeah, I can't stress enough that fitness is really is helpful. In any of these professional sailing jobs, and it's like a what's the word for it? You need a baseline of fitness in order to be competitive in certain Olympic sailing boats. And spend the time now to get that foundation of fitness and good healthy habits, because until you get a baseline of fitness, your boat handling is not going to be competitive. You're not going to be proficient, and so on and so forth. So size can be limiting, but I would say fitness is the biggest thing to just focus on. Don't worry about your size. A lot of you guys are still growing, but fitness is, just focus on getting strong.
It's an attitude.
Yeah. Okay. Is that
good?
Cool. I just wanted to mention the Olympic Development Program, guys, is so cool. I can't stress enough that, and I don't mean to sound like a crotchety old woman. Oh, you guys are so lucky, you kids back in our day, but we really didn't have anything like this. And I just really hope you guys all take a look and see the resources out there. There's so many training camps, there's coaching opportunities, there's development camps. There's so many resources for kids that are interested in the Olympic Development Program. So please, if you're interested and you want us to introduce you to Leandro Spina, who's the the Olympic Development Program director, we'd be happy to, but you got to make the first step to us. I want an email from you, and you'll see my emails in a second. I want to know what you want to do and what you're doing, and then we're happy to make the connection. But if I just get a note that's hi, will you introduce me to Leandro? I don't really have anything to work off of, but if you're this is what I want to do, this is what I am doing, these are my questions, you know. Also, if you don't really know what you would say at first, like asking coaches to help you make your high performance plan is like music to their ears. You know, if you're like, I want to sail in the Olympics in 10 or 15 years, whenever it might be. What do you think I should be doing now? What should I be focusing on now? Here's what I'm doing. Here's what I've access to. Here's, you know, where I live, whatever. But those kind of questions, I mean, Steph, I don't know about you, but like it makes my day when I get a question, like an email or a Facebook message from you guys that's like, what should I be doing right now with this? What boat should I sail? You know, like that. We love thinking about that stuff. And like, I just want to say that we're always here. If you have any questions, please, you know, take down our contact information. Feel free to like send us texts. Send me texts. I put my phone number there. Either of us, you can email. You can follow at Roble Sailing is like on Facebook and Instagram. You can always message us through that. I would say I'm certainly less reliable on social media messaging, but that option's always there. But yeah, I just like, you know, the ODP has such cool resources that if you feel like you don't know where to start and you just want to have a conversation with us, please, we're totally open to that. If you want us to introduce you to Leandro because you're trying to get in this camp and you want to know what regattas you should put on your calendar the next 6 months when we do actually start sailing again, like that's a good way to go too. But yeah, I just want to impress upon you that like we're here, we were you 15 years ago or however old we are, and you know, we want to help you if we can. So okay, Steph, do you have anything to add before we go to? I tried to find nice pictures of us smiling so you guys won't be intimidated, because our sailing photos we look so angry usually. So we are nice, I promise.
No, I think you nailed it, Maggie.
We're here. Okay, cool. Should we open the floor to some comment or questions?
Yeah.
Hey guys, I have a question. It's Margot.
Hey Margot. Here, I'm gonna
It's okay. I was curious. When was the point when you realized that you wanted to go into professional sailing? Like this was like something that you wanted to do. Like you were gonna like find a partner, or you're gonna like put in the effort to like do this.
My point was when I was in high school and I did the radial Olympic pre-trials my senior year, and I did terribly. I think I got like 10th or something, 10th out of like 13. But then the next year, I don't remember when I got top 10, but I just remember thinking, okay, I'm so far from that level, but I want to get there, you know, and I want to do it and I want to put the time in. And I got to see like Paige and Anna, Paige Rayleigh, who is going to her third Olympics this time, and Anna Tunicliffe, who we just competed against in the trials, but she later went on to win a gold at this Olympics. I saw the two of them duking it out, and they were like on a whole different level. And I just remember thinking like, I want to get to that place. I want to be there, and I'm really far from that point, and it's gonna take me a long time. So I did the trials in 2008, 2012, 2016, and then 2020. So it took a really long time. I was right. It wasn't gonna take me a while, and it did. But yeah, I just remember looking at that being like, I want to get to that point. Yeah. What about you, Steph? You might have a better answer.
I would say like pretty much like when I learned that sailing was in the Olympics, like I knew I wanted to go. I just have always really loved the Olympics. Like I grew up loving watching the gymnasts and the Olympic Games and the Winter Olympics, and the Olympics has just always been like really special to me. But then I think like when I was doing junior sailing and doing the laser radial like single-handed stuff, I qualified to represent the U.S. at the Youth Worlds, and that was cool because it was one person per class, which is similar to how the Olympics is. And so to me that was like kind of my aha moment, like I really want to pursue this. And then yeah, after college, like I knew I didn't want to go into a real job. I wanted to keep sailing, and kind of found my path to make it happen.
Thanks for the question.
I have a quick question. You guys listed a number of challenges, but if you rank them, what challenges were probably the hardest and how did you overcome them?
Yeah,
that is a good question.
Hold on, I need a minute to think about that one.
I would say our biggest challenges in the last year have been pretty mental, you know, like our mental strength. And for me, like, I think that hit at times that we weren't doing well, or when I'm on the road for a long time and I felt homesick or lonely or sad or whatever it might be. And I just was having a tough time, like having a good attitude, and I would like sleep too much and just be not happy all the time. And so for me, that was like turning it around and figuring out like how can I be a good teammate, and what do I need to do to make it, to make myself kind of be happier. And that was a big moment for me. But I think we also worked as a team on our mental strength on the race course. We took this approach where we were like, hey, we have the skill set. We are as fast as everyone, we're one of the top 10 fastest teams in the world, sometimes top 5. We've got the skill set. We know we're good racers. We've got the mechanical skills to do it, but we were the stress of racing was interfering with our ability to just execute or to perform or to, to not feel stressed and pressure, and or not let the pressure turn into stress. And so we just said, hey, our mental strength we're going to approach it like any other muscle in your body. We developed a lot of techniques, just like you do, like, okay, I need to work on my arm strength. I'm going to do a bunch of bicep curls and push-ups. We did a lot of like mental strength techniques, like that. I'll let Steph talk to you about that because I'm rambling right now about mental fortitude. But
no, I think that's a really good point, Maggie. I agree. That's a huge challenge that we've overcome, and I think like we're sailing the Olympic trials against 2 Olympians, and one had a gold medal, and the other is a very, very talented sailor, and so I think that was like a pretty big mental hurdle to overcome. And like Maggie said, we put in a lot of reps to become mentally tougher and more resilient, and figure out how to just kind of keep that steady eddy flow that Maggie was talking about, and a good approach to racing.
Yeah, and like one example I think would be when your mind wanders to thinking about results, right? Like as it so often could have for us at the Olympic trials, thinking, if we don't win this race, we're not going to go to the Olympics. If we don't get top 5 in this race, we're not going to go to the Olympics, whatever it might be. Like that would be the easy conclusion for our mind to wander to, right? That's like not a productive thought in any way. That's very distracting, actually. And all it does is make you feel like, we have to win, and that doesn't help anybody. And so one technique is like, and when your mind starts wandering to that, like wandering to results, wandering to who's finishing where you're finishing in the race, like whatever, you have to like actively bring it back to the process and the task at hand. And so in my mind, I'll be like, what's my job right now? My job right now. And if it's between races, my job right now might be to like drink water. Okay, I need to drink water. And then I'm thinking about how much water I had to drink. Okay, I'm thinking about drinking water. I'm thinking about being hydrated. Okay, then the next race, like we need to get, and you just, those really tiny little tasks, like you bring you back into the moment. You can focus on the present and not get too result oriented. And so that's just an example of, that's like one mental technique we have, which is, well, actually, yeah, to dig in further, when your mind starts going down that, like, okay, the other girls are so much like taller and faster than we are in breeze or whatever, you stop. I had one sports psych who said you have to like say the word stop out loud. I had one who said, imagine a stop sign, whatever the technique might be, to stop that mental thought and then redirect your energy to what you're trying to work on right there, then in the moment. Like that's a technique that we use a lot, and that took a lot of like training. You have to train your mind to like not worry about things and focus on other things, right? And so that was so valuable. I could feel a difference on the boat when both of us stopped worrying about results and stopped thinking about where we're finishing and who we were beating and who we had to beat, and just started focusing on the shifts and the puffs and the start and the boat speed and everything. Was there another? What do you think? I mean, we also had some pretty good challenges, like. We had some big boat breakdowns.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, we've had a lot. I mean, we've had a lot of challenges. We've had like our whole toolbox stolen one time. That was exciting. We've had, and your toolbox is like your everything, like everything you've accumulated over the last like 2 years, and it's all perfectly, and then everything that's important is in your toolbox. So they stole everything important that we had. That was a bummer. But we came over it, or we got over it, and we learned that like you really can't leave everything in one place, and yeah, if it's important, then it can't stay in the toolbox. And so that was a pretty big shift. So we started taking a lot more stuff home. And we've had some injuries that were scary, like not Steph and I have been really lucky to only have minor injuries, but our coach was injured at one point, and that was really scary. And we'd like kind of go home and reset and change some processes for, you know, how to prevent accidents from happening. And yeah. What else went wrong, Steph? Kidding.
Lost bags, we've lost masks, we've missed flights, all that logistical stuff.
Yeah, like almost everything's been stolen. Yeah. Our toolbox was stolen one time, and then sometimes someone broke into our van and stole, like, we each had like 100 pounds of luggage and like 2 huge duffels. They took all of that. We're like, oh, our whole life kit of stuff in Europe is gone. But whatever, then you learn it's just stuff, and that happens, and you have to have a travel insurance policy. So does that answer your question, Jimmy?
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for making us think of all the hard times. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm joking. Even today, actually, we were texting with our coach because she's right in Sydney at the moment, and she was reminiscing about how a year ago, and a little more, it was last December, a year ago December, we were all in Sydney and training, and like we had this really hard day on the water, and we had this like pretty brutal chat after sailing on this park bench. And it was so funny. She texted us and was like, ha ha ha, remember the conversation? You know, and we laugh about that because it was hard at the moment, and we're a lot stronger because of it. You know, we actually had some really productive chats as a team, you know, and we really decided like how we were going to move forward and be stronger. And that was a cool memory because, yeah, at the time things don't feel like fun. And then later you look back on them and you're like, wow, we're actually a stronger team because of it. So, yeah. All right, any other good question? What's our favorite quote? Ooh, from Jack. Favorite quote. What do you think, Steph?
What is my favorite quote? I don't even know who said it, but something that like really kind of drives me is saying like for a purpose, with purpose, on purpose. And that's just kind of like a daily reminder of like doing everything you do on purpose, and like really, like whatever you do on the race course or in life or in a relationship, you do it on purpose, and it just, you put a lot more thought into everything that you're doing, and execute at a different level. I don't know.
No, you do like that one. You do. That's a very genuine quote that I've heard you say several times. Yeah. The only one coming to mind for me, this might be kind of random, but is New York Times op-ed writer, the minute you settle for less than you deserve, you get less than you settled for, something like that, you know, and then what it's just talking about how like, don't settle, you know, if you're really like, if you're really gonna like pursue a different tacking technique, like don't settle till you've done it, you know what I mean? And you can't settle for a B- if you needed to deliver an A. And it's funny because I think on our team, like all of us decide to like really have a high level of perfectionism about certain things, and then we have to like scale it back, you know, and be like, okay, it's okay, this is enough, this is good enough, and it's not going to be perfect every time. But I do like to think about that. Like, we're not going to settle, you know, if we know it can be better, if we know our accelerations can be better, we're going to go out and do 45 accelerations, and I'm going to feel like I'm bashing my head against a wall, but like, we're going to do it, and we're going to feel good about it. And then afterwards we're going to feel more confident. And so, yeah, I like that whole concept of just not settling for just okay. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Hey, Hannah, go for it.
Sorry I was late. I didn't realize we had this, but
No problem.
how do you guys find the motivation to keep going when it gets super hard?
I think everyone has different motivation, and it's different things. Like I remember like we like just really working out like really hard in the gym before our worlds in February, and like there were some days when it like really hurt, and like just in the moment like thinking about the feeling of going to the Olympics, or the feeling of, you know, winning a medal at the Olympics, and kind of those feelings, and it allows you to dig deep. And just also for me, like just know, like when it comes to like physically, like physical things like in the gym, like knowing that you can push your body further than you can ever like really think to push it. And I think that that's some good motivation. And then I don't know, mentally it's just, yeah, visualization is pretty empowering for me.
Would you say like visualizing success?
Yeah, visualizing success is definitely super empowering.
Good. I'm glad you don't like visualize our cap sizes. I don't know why I asked that question.
Well, I have read about like Michael Phelps, for example, like he did visualize things that could go wrong at the games and how you react to it. So like, obviously you don't want to capsize in a race, but like if you do, how are you going to react to it? And so it is okay to like, you know, it's not like you're visualizing it to make it happen, but it's what's your reaction to how things happen.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and going back to those like those challenges that that Jimmy asked about earlier, you're right. Like, yeah, you can actually gain a lot of strength from thinking about the times you overcame adversity, for sure. And I'll say one real quick, my mental techniques for like when I wouldn't say it's a lack of motivation, because we want it and we've always wanted it so badly, and we still want a medal, you know, like we want that motivation's been burning in our belly for a long time. And you've got to know when it's burning and then know when it's not, you know. But I know that I can push through anything. I can push through physical pain. I can push through exhausting sessions. I can push through being scared, which has been a reality too. When I'm really tired on the water, I've been scared before sometimes. You know, we're ripping downwind at like 20 knots, and like, let's be real, when we wipe out, it hurts, you know, and then I get scared, like, well, what if I get injured? What if I can't compete in the Olympic trials because I broke my arm because we capsized, you know, like, and that's like that's a negative mental spiral. But that's an emotion I have felt, you know, and that's reality. And so what helps me kind of bring back the moment is I remember that, like, I can, if you're in a good mental state, like if you are mentally tough on that day and you're mentally feeling strong, like you can handle it, you can handle anything. But if you're not feeling mentally strong that day, like a splinter in your finger might be the end of it. You know, like it's amazing how much your mental fortitude really impacts like how much you can push yourself and what you can accomplish that day. So, you know, when I'm feeling down or something on the water, frustrated or whatever it might be, we learned this like mindfulness technique that's observe, describe, and participate, and it really helps bring me back to the moment. I observe my surroundings, and it's usually like, okay, sailing is actually pretty cool, and I'm happy to be here and lucky to be on the water, you know. And then I describe, and like that helps you really soak in the moment. You know, I describe the water, I describe the feeling of being in the water. I describe, you know, if I'm nervous, I actively think about how it feels to wade into the water in the morning, and like that really helps me get in the present. And then you participate, you know, and you're usually in a better place after you've acknowledge like where you are, and you usually feel a little tinge of like gratefulness. Like I'm like, okay, I'm actually, yeah, it might be cold and raining and terrible and windy and I'm exhausted, but like at the same time, I'm lucky to be here and this is cool. All right, we have some chats. Do we practice with Paris and Anna a lot, or mostly on our own with our own coach? To answer that quickly, the beginning of the we started campaigning full-time together in 2016 when Paris was in school and Anna was working and pursuing her CrossFit goals, which were incredible. She was like fittest masters woman, world championship, strongest woman. I don't remember the titles. I apologize, but she won the CrossFit Games in her age category like twice in those kind of early years in the campaign. So in the beginning years of the campaign, we found some international partners that we got along well with, and we trained with some other U.S. kids or U.S. sailors at the time. And then by the time Paris and Anna started campaigning full time, we had developed a pretty awesome training partner relationship with the Argentinian team. And so I would say short answer is no, we didn't train a lot together. We did most of our training on our own with our own coach. But certainly in the beginning, that was dictated a lot by schedule and how much we were sailing and where we were sailing. They trained a lot in San Diego. We don't have any setup in San Diego, you know. So that's kind of a lot of it. But I would say also if Steph and I could do the campaign over again, Steph, I don't mean to speak for you, but I would say that we would probably actually train with them more. We, you know, if we could do things over, we would find a way to sail against them more than we did. So.
Yeah, for sure.
How about books that are motivation for athletes? Yes, we love books. My favorite is 10-Minute Toughness. Steph used to like Mind Gym. What else?
Yeah, Mind Gym's a good one. There's another book that I really like called Chasing Excellence by Ben Bergeron. He's a CrossFit coach, actually. He coached Katrin David's daughter to 2 CrossFit Games championships. And they talk a lot about the process and the growth mindset stuff in that book, and I think it's really cool.
Yeah, sorry, I can't remember all the authors, but if you Google those ones, I think, yeah, I don't think there are too many of those. Because Tokyo, okay, from Margot, because Tokyo is now in 1 year, are you guys doing anything different to prepare? Yes, actually, when we finished the trials in February, we were on like a very condensed 6-month timeline. And there were a lot of things that we just had to say, okay, this is good enough, and we have to spend our energy and focus on other things. And now we're able to kind of go back to that and do deep dives. And to me, that's exciting. That's like, okay, I get to measure all the masks again. You know, I love that stuff. And I think, you know, to Steph, it's some tech projects that we're going to get to jump into that we didn't think we had time for. So we're in a pretty exciting opportunity. Usually the Olympic trials, for a lot of reasons, are like right before the Olympics. You know, they want the athletes who are firing hot to qualify and then compete. And because of everything that's happened lately, we're in a different situation where we have like a 14-month lead up. And so we feel really lucky for that. We're going to make the most of this time, and we're psyched to have it. Time has been, believe it or not, 4 years went by like so fast. So, okay. And what are you both looking for or practicing before a big race? Do you have a large different strategy from other sailors?
I would say it's probably not a different strategy. I don't think that like anything that any of the mental techniques that we've talked about is, I mean, most like any sports psychologist you talk to would say the same things. I think, you know, mentally speaking, it's about putting in the reps, like Maggie said. And then, you know, that's part of practice, is putting in those reps. And then I would say like, just like something I guess we practiced all 4 years was like figuring out what we each need in order to be successful on the water. So like you got to figure that out, and it's kind of like you try one thing. Okay, did I like that? No, not so much. So okay, like, and it's down to the details of like Maggie and I living together. Like we tried different things of like us just living together, us living separately, and then we ultimately found out, you know, a year or so later, like we like to live together with other people, and that's the best living combination for us. And it's, you know, like Maggie said, I like riding my bike to the venue. If I get my bike ride in the venue on my way to the venue, like that's a huge part of my day. And so just like really figuring out what you need to be successful, and like you're not going to figure it out right away. It's going to take time, and you just have to like give yourself the time to learn about those things.
Yeah, for sure. The environmental things, like making sure I have to feel like my house is like clean. I like to vacuum on the day off. I like doing puzzles to pass the time before racing. So Steph has started buying me nice regatta puzzles. Because you need to find a way to like stay engaged and pass the time, but not get tired or not get anxious about sailing. So we do know like what those activities are. But before races, like I focus a lot on, okay, how do I feel? I need to wake up and feel fresh that morning. So whatever recovery techniques I need physically for my body are really important. And usually that's like tapering the big workouts and staying active, exerting energy for like 2 or 3 hours, but not at a high level. But I just want to wake up and feel really fresh and ready to fight. Like when we sail our best, it's because we're hungry, you know? So we usually have to take a day of sailing off at some point before the racing. We do a lot of starting drills before big regattas, actually. I think that helps get us in the routine of communication that we use. And Steph, I will observe that you do watch a lot of sailing video of us before big regattas, you know.
I like to watch video, that's for sure. If we know like if the forecast is for like a windy regatta, I'll like go back through and watch like windy racing, or like if, you know, it's going to be a light air regatta, that too. Or even like the night before regatta, I'll watch like videos of us doing starts or whatever. And anything that like nervous, or if I'm not feeling confident about something, like I'll just go back and watch video and be like, yes, I do know how to do that. Like this is my process.
I got this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd also say 10-Minute Toughness has a great workbook that I actually printed like several copies of, or you could Xerox it too. But it's got a workbook in there that I've gone back and redone that 10-Minute Toughness workbook. That's like, write your mission, like write your identity statement, like write your performance statement, right? You know, and those actually, like, what are your goals? What are you doing now? Like, just sometimes actually like the cheesy exercise of writing those things out really helps me. And I did that before our trials event, and I think it made me feel pretty like centered. Okay, it's hard to get the high school kids to do tack jive and make a routine. How many tacks jive do you do in a month of training? Oh my gosh, I don't think we could count how many tacks we do. We start every day with so many tacks. We do 15 minutes of tacking every 30 seconds or minute, and we do at least 15 minutes of that. We do so many. I mean, our one thing we believe is that, like, if your boat handling is not really good, you know, then we can't focus on anything else. Like, if we can't sail the boat at a really high level consistently, then we're not talking racing tactics and strategy and starting and stuff. Like, but that's the foundation that we need in order to be competitive. And so that's kind of where we start. I don't know, Steph, can you imagine how many taxi drives we do in a month?
I have no idea. It's a lot. Our coach loves boat handling, so we do a lot of it.
Hundreds?
Yeah.
Maybe hundreds. Hundreds of tacks, not hundreds of jibes. I think I would be dead if we did hundreds of jibes, but a lot. Yeah, it's so many. I mean, some days we'll just go out and do short laps around a short course, and we'll do 1 lap, 2 lap, 3 lap, 4 lap, 3 lap, 2 lap, 1 lap, and then that's a day of sailing, you know, and we're just practicing tacking, jibing, and rounding marks. And those skills really, like on a windy day of sailing at like a really high level event, like if you can't do those things really well, like second nature, you're going to miss other big things that are happening. So that's just like a non-negotiable for us, that we're doing that all the time. Was that the answer you were looking for, Zach? I'm kidding, but we really do tons of boat handling, tons and tons. Mentors we look up to. Yeah, we have so many. I'll go first. Sally Bark has mine.
Yeah, Sally's one for me as well. And yeah, like Maggie said, pretty lucky to have some people that we look up to. And Sally's been a huge role model in both our careers. And Julia as well. She's been an amazing role model and coach, and we look up to her a lot. Dave Ullman, who coached us as well, he's awesome. Anyone who's coached us, really. And I think, like, you know, it's really important to have role models and mentors, and but just like keep your bubble of those people small, because I think a mistake we made early on was like kind of getting too many people involved, and then we got a lot of opinions, and it was hard to like trust what was right. So kind of find your little group and trust them.
Yeah, and find someone that really believes in you and wants what's best for you. Like, I was really lucky to sail with Sally a few times early in my professional sailing career, and she was really like, she would just tell me that I need to like learn to believe in myself, and that was so helpful. I was so grateful for that. Any other questions? Did we get all the ones in the chat, or did I miss any? Here, I'll just check real quick. Okay, I think we got to all the chat questions. Was anything answered unsatisfactorily? Satisfactorily?
Can I ask one last question really quick?
Yeah.
Is there like a routine or like a list of things that you like have to do like in the practice days before races?
Yep.
There's definitely a list of things that we have to do, not have to do before each race, but things a checklist of things we'd like to get through. And as our like sailing has evolved, like that list has changed. And I don't know, I just think it's nice to have like, yeah, some sort of list that you can like you can even print it out and put it in your life jacket, and like then you can kind of go through like and do it that way. I'm not sure we did have one on a wet note, so we just would kind of like go through, and it just, yeah, like it goes back to the process. Like it puts your energy into focusing on how you can set yourself up for a better race, rather than thinking about being nervous for a race. It's just like, all right, what's the next thing I have to do? Look at the checklist. Checklist says I have to go check the line bias. Okay, I can go do that. And yeah, it puts your energy into good things.
Yeah, love checklists. I love them. We've got like a 30-point checklist that we look over the rig and the mechanics of the boat. It has like every little bolt on it. And did you lube the mast track? And did we check for this for corrosion? Did we check the wires for fraying? All those things. And so that would be like our rigging checklist that we do before the regatta or maybe before we change equipment. And then we have boat prep checklists. So we polish the hull and we, all these cleaning things that I think are great for the boat. And then there's a daily checklist when we launch every single day. What do I ask you, Steph?
Stern plug, tracker, sign out.
Yeah, exactly. Like every day. Because any three of those things, if we don't do any one of them, it's catastrophic. And I don't think it's fair to put it all on Steph's plate. So gotta have the stern plug always sync, and then signing out the tracker. Like if you don't take it and then return it at the right time, like you can get points added. So yeah, we do that. And then, yeah, the pre-start routine also changes a lot. Like, I think it changes a lot based on the conditions, but yeah, we always have it. So yeah. Does that answer your question, Lexi?
Yes, thank you.
Sounds like 50% of the team has checklists.
Protein powder. Yes, no. How has your diet fitness changed throughout your campaign? Protein powder, yeah. Ascent protein, that's what we use. It's awesome. It's good stuff. I think, everyone has different preferences. I prefer it because it's just an easy way to get your protein in after a workout or a day of sailing. But there's different ways to get your protein. You can eat a bunch of chicken instead of eating a protein shake. So just understanding the amount of protein that you need is what's most important. And then how's your diet fitness changed throughout your campaign? Like, we've learned so much throughout this whole campaign about nutrition, and I kind of touched on it earlier, of like, it's so important because what you eat and when you eat it affects like your ability to not only physically perform but mentally perform. If you're not hydrated and you wake up with a headache in the morning before you go sailing, it's like, oh man, like how can I expect myself to think clearly when I am not hydrated? So you really, like, it's just having those things you can kind of just like, it's things you can control like that are important to keep controlling. And our diet has changed in the sense that we are trying to gain weight, and we have been. We've gained like 20 pounds as a team. So gaining that weight has been really important and keeping it on. So obviously trying to do it as muscle, but a little bit of extra fat doesn't hurt.
Totally. Yeah, and just to like Steph said, everything, it's different for everyone. I don't do protein powder because I've don't have a good reaction to most types of it. So I just have to make sure that I get a ton of protein within an hour of working out. And so that's usually like a smoothie with Greek yogurt or chicken or whatever it might be, nuts. But you just have to learn what works best for you. And we've worked with different nutritionists, and like we've actually found that like different ones work best for us. So Steph and I even work with different people right now. But whatever is manageable for you, and you really have to figure out what works for you and how you can repeat it. Sometimes we travel with like 40 pounds of like bars and powders and goos and, oh man, so much stuff, because traveling around the world, it's like, that's always a variable. So we got to figure that out. And I like baking, so I do that a lot at regattas because that works well for us. So that works well for us,
I don't complain about it.
Yeah. Any other questions before we wrap up here?
I have one. So I get really nervous, and like the second the horn blows for like the first start, I get really nervous and it kind of messes me up. Like, what do you guys do when you get super nervous like that?
Breathe. Sing a song and breathe. Yeah, that actually, we had one race in Australia. We had 2 days of the regatta where we were just like, we barely like made it into Gold Fleet. And then we our third day, we were just like, I think we had 3 races that day. The first 2 races, we were like on fire. We were sailing really well. And before the third race, I got like really nervous, and I was just like, and Julia felt it. She was like, just go sing a song. And that's exactly what we did. And we had another great race. And I know singing a song doesn't make you have a good race, but it helps you relax. It puts your mind in another spot and not thinking about things. And just have like a song that you can go to and like sing a lot of the words and jam out. Maggie and I, we sing the song Thunder by the Imagine Dragons. Like that's our song. And if both of us can sing a lot of it, then we go to that and we sing that. And breathing as well is really important. Like taking like a deep breath and then like a deep exhale, and like just a lot of those. And once you can control your breath, like you'll calm your heart rate down and you'll shake that nervous feeling out.
Yeah, we've learned a lot about like when you feel nervous. First of all, we like to say it to each other. I'll be like, whoa, I'm really nervous right now, or like I got a lot of butterflies. And then usually the teammate can kind of help you rally in whatever way it can. But like sometimes for us, it's like a fist bump or a half hug, or I'll I'll kind of, where we're hiking, I'll kind of like pat Steph on the side of her leg, you know what I mean? Like, and that sort of like physical contact can sometimes be like, we got this. It kind of helps you reset. Sometimes just saying it helps you feel that way better. But I wanted to also emphasize what Steph mentioned, that with your heart rate, like when you're starting to feel nervous and you start feeling you feel butterflies in your stomach and your heart pounding, that feeling alone makes you nervous. You know what I mean? It just feeds on itself. So what you're really trying to do is just stop that process. Stop your body from telling you something's wrong, because it's not, right? Like feeling nervous is good. You want to feel nervous. If you never ever feel nervous, it probably means you don't care, or maybe you picked the wrong sport. Like you should sometimes feel nervous, and that's normal, and that's part of it. And so Madison, I really appreciate your questions, because we get nervous all the time. We say it, and then you breathe through it. You take your mind off of it by focusing on a song. Sometimes I sing like Hakuna Matata to Steph and she giggles and thinks I'm a weirdo, but whatever it does to just like stop that process where your body says, something's wrong, I'm in danger. Something's wrong, I'm in danger. You're not in danger. You just care about your sport, and that's cool, and you should care. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does.
Well, guys, thanks so much for the thoughtful questions. Really appreciate it. And thank you so much we really love when people turn on their cameras, because it's so nice to talk to smiling faces. It's kind of funny to talk to just people's names, So thank you very much.
You ladies were awesome. Thank you so much for doing this. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, our
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks, guys. And reach out
Thank you.
anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys have a great group.
Yeah.
What a great group.
Crazy bunch, right?
Yeah, so sweet. All right, bye, guys.
See ya. Thank you.
Z, is that your new place?
Hold on one second.
Hmm?